and welcome to the Blindfold Chess Podcast.
Nowadays, we may see this gentleman as a commentator on large-scale events such as the U.S. Championship and the World Championship, but he has had a groundbreaking career, including participating in the U.S. Chess Championship and becoming the first black chess grandmaster. We are talking, of course, about the Tiger Woods of chess, Maurice Ashley. Born in Jamaica in 1966, he discovered chess around the age of 8 or 9. He said he remembers beating an older boy, a friend of his brother's, because he had learned the scholar's mate, the 4-move checkmate where you can coordinate your queen and bishop and target the pawn on f7 or f2. No one taught him that mate, he just saw it. At the age of 12, he moved to the United States, where he got more serious by playing in the parks and clubs around New York City. During his high school years in the 1980s, Ashley failed to make the chess team, but still competed in local tournaments. He recalled in an interview with U.S. Chess, quote, "It wasn't until I was 14 in high school in Brooklyn that I saw a friend playing, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't have a clue." End quote. He joined the Black Bear School of Chess, a chess group of African-American chess enthusiasts that was popular in the 1970s and 80s. This group produced some of the strongest black masters in history. In that same interview, Ashley said, quote, "This group was the most influential on my chess. They taught me how to fight to the bitter end and really study intensely. Not by formal lessons, but by just crushing me mercilessly. Truly the school of hard knocks." End quote. One of the traditions to move up in the club, a player needed to challenge the person immediately above them in the group rankings. So if you won a match, then you moved up. Ashley climbed the ranks until he jockeyed for the top spot with William Morrison over the course of 30-game blitz matches. In 1984, Ashley made it a goal to become a grandmaster. 2 years later, at the age of 20, he became a national master. The following year, he became the captain of the New York City college chess team. As captain, the team competed at the Pan American Intercollegiate Championship of 1987. In his free time during college, he coached the Raging Rooks of Harlem's junior high school number 43 at the age of 25. Ashley led the Rooks to victory at the National Junior High School Championship in 1991. This victory earned his team a front-page story in the New York Times. If you want to look it up, it is below the fold on April 26th of 1991. In 1992, he shared the United States Game 10 championship with Maxim Dlugy. His rating continued to climb. In 1993, he became an international master, the first African American in U.S. history to do so. He finished first at the Enhance International Chess Tournament and became champion of the Manhattan Marshall Chess Club Championship. 1993, Ashley was also in his first year of coaching the Mott Hall Elementary Dark Knights chess team, a group that would go on to win 2 consecutive national championships. Not only was Ashley a rising player and a national champion coach, but in 1995 he was also the commentator of the World Championship match between Kasparov and Anand. The next year, he was the commentator of the man versus machine match between Kasparov and Deep Blue. In 1997, he backed off of coaching and commentating to focus on becoming a grandmaster. He had an epiphany after seeing Tiger Woods clinch the 1997 Golf Masters and said, quote, "I had been dreaming about being a grandmaster for over a decade, but life had seemed to be constantly pulling me in different directions." End quote. Maurice also wrote on his website, quote, "It was that Sunday in April, watching Tiger realize his dream, that convinced me I needed to change my life and go chase mine." End quote. He then went to Europe to increase his likelihood of collecting GM norms. 2 years later, in 1999, at the age of 33, he picked up his final Grandmaster norm at the Manhattan International Tournament, and with it, he earned his Grandmaster title. He became the first African-American to achieve the Grandmaster title. That news was reported in the New York Times as well as Sports Illustrated. Later in that same year, he opened the Harlem Chess Center. He did not stop there. In 2000 and 2001, he was the first consecutive winner at the Foxwoods Open. In 2001, he played at the World Open in Philadelphia, where he lost in the last round. Had he not, he would have been in a tie for first. And Ashley also reached his peak rating of 25.04. In 2003, he and Susan Polgar became U.S. Chess Federation's Grandmasters of the Year. He was the commentator on ESPN's broadcast of the Garry Kasparov match against X3D, which was a match that ended in a 2-2 tie. He also wrote an essay called The End of the Draw Offer, which raised questions about ways to avoid quick draws in chess tournaments. He argued that quick draws were detrimental to the game for the viewer, sponsorships, and players. He insisted on a 30 or 40 move rule in tournaments. This essay helped inspire the rule changes at the U.S. Chess Championship and the New York Masters that are present today. He also played in his first U.S. Championship, placing 39th out of 58. After this tournament, he announced that he would be retiring from competitive chess and instead pivoting to coaching and commentating. A couple of years later, he penned Chess for Success, using an old game to build new strengths in children and teens. In 2007, Ashley returned to his home country of Jamaica and became the first Grandmaster to participate in a tournament there, the Frederick Cameron Open. He swept the first part of the tournament, but in the last round lost to Jamaican national master Homo Peterson. The next year, he planned and organized the highest stakes chess tournament, the Millionaire Chess Open. Wesley So won the Open section, taking home $100,000 for first place. There were also $40,000 prizes for under 2,200, under 2,000, under 1,800, under 1,600, and $24,000 in prizes for the under 1,400 section. From 2013 to 2019, he was the commentator of the Sinkfield Cup, several U.S. chess championships, and he partnered with the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis. In April of 2016, he was the 57th person to be inducted into the U.S. Chess Hall of Fame. On his plaque, he is described as not only was he the first African-American player to achieve the title of Grandmaster, but one of the greatest ambassadors and promoters the game has ever known. Fast forwarding a little to 2024, Ashley released the book Move by Move: Life Lessons on and Off the Chessboard. He also started the Maurice Ashley Foundation, an organization with the mission to help young people who do not typically have access to resources to be able to grow. Quote, "Too often, kids with immense potential are overlooked simply because they don't have access to the right environment or support. This fellowship is about giving those kids a chance to rise, to be seen, and to compete on the world stage." End quote. 2024 also marked the 25th anniversary of Ashley becoming the first African-American Grandmaster. Quote, "When people asked me at the time, how does it feel to become the first? I said, it is cool to be the first, but what excites me is there's going to be a second, third, fourth, and a 10th. Here we are 25 years later, and I am still the only one in the U.S. or in Jamaica. For me, that is a challenge. That's unacceptable." End quote. For today's game, though, we are traveling back to his playing days, to the New York State Championship of 1991. Maurice Ashley versus Mark Berman. Now, if we're ready, let's begin.
1. Pawn to e4. Pawn to e6. 2. Pawn to d4. Pawn to d5. 3. Pawn e captures d5. Pawn e captures d5. 4. Pawn to c4. Pawn to c6. 5. Knight c3. Bishop e6. 6. Pawn c captures d5. Bishop captures d5.
So with Ashley's move of pawn captures on d5, and with Berman's move of bishop captures on d5, white has entered into an isolated queen-pawn position. Now this is a very common and very thematic type of structure. White does have a weak pawn that has no support on either side, which makes it isolated. However, it does provide support squares, so like having a pawn on d4 allows access to the e5 square and the c5 square. So thematically, black is trying to trade off as many pieces as possible to create that weakness and magnify it, whereas white is trying to keep as many pieces on the board and leverage the extra space by attacking the black position.
Seven, knight f3. Bishop e7. 8, bishop d3. Knight f6. 9, castle kingside. Castle kingside. 10, rook e1. Rook e8. 11, knight e5. Knight b to d7. 12, knight captures d5. Pawn c captures d5.
So by capturing the bishop that was on d5, white has given black an isolated queen pawn now as well, so they both have access to those extra space squares and they both have a weakness. White also managed to retain the bishop pair. So let's see what Maurice can do with this advantage.
13, bishop g5. Pawn to h6. 14, bishop h4. Knight f8. 15, bishop b5.
So the move bishop to b5 targets the rook that is on e8. That rook is currently trapped and has nowhere to go since there is a queen on d8, a dark square bishop on e7, and a knight on f8. So if you were in black's shoes, which piece would you use to defend your rook?
Knight 6 to d7. 16, bishop g3. Pawn to a6. 17, bishop a4. Rook c8. 18, queen h5.
This is a very provocative move from white by playing queen to h5. What square or squares is white trying to target with this move? White is adding a lot of pressure to the f7 square, which is targeted by the knight on e5, and now the queen on h5. White is also indirectly attacking the d5 isolated queen pawn, as well as adding support to the knight that is on e5.
Knight captures e5.
With black playing the move knight captures on e5, he has presented white with a pretty major choice. The bishop on b5 is targeting the rook on e8, and you have a rook on e1, a bishop on g3, and a queen on h5, as well as a pawn on d4, all ready to recapture the knight that is now on e5. If you were in white's position, which piece would you recapture or capture, and why?
(19) Rook captures e5.
White chose to use the rook to capture on e5, continuing to leverage the extra space that the isolated queen pawn provides, as well as targeting black's weakness on d5. The rook that is on e8 is still trapped, so there's no real rush to target it, but white can continue to add pressure on that d5 square.
Pawn to b5. (20) Bishop b3. Bishop f6. (21) Rook captures d5. Queen a5. (22) Queen captures f7 check.
Queen captures f7 is a very surprising move. It's putting the black king in check. White is gaining a pawn, but at the same time sacrificing his queen. Can you see what white's idea is in this position? If you went with the idea of king captures on f7, and white has the hope of having a checkmate by either like rook to d7 check or rook to g5 check, that is the incorrect idea, as black will be able to tuck himself away on either like g6, h7, or h8, and in that case you would have sacrificed your queen for no reason. The main idea for white is if the king were to capture the queen that is on f7, then white has rook captures on b5 check, gaining a second pawn. The black king would have to move. Then white can play rook captures on a5. So white is up 2 pawns, as well as trying to pick off the pawn that is on a6. So this position is just crushing for white.
King h8. (23) Rook e5. Black resigns.
Why did black resign in this position? White is threatening checkmate with queen to g8 checkmate. White is also up 2 pawns, and the move rook to e5 targets the rook that is on e8. So if black were to try to get out with like king to h7, then black is going to lose his rook with rook captures on e8. So the only real way to defend the mate and prevent the rook from being captured is knight from f8 to e6, and in that case white would capture that, and now they are up a piece and 2 pawns, which is enough for black to resign. A player, a best-selling author, world-renowned commentator, national chess coach champion, the first black player to become a Grandmaster, and a wonderful ambassador to the game, Maurice Ashley has covered a ton in his chess career, and his message of constant and continual learning filters to his students today. Quote, "If other people can beat you, you're not that good. That's true for everyone, including Grandmasters. We're all just advanced beginners." End quote. So that is all that we have for this week. Tune in next time, where we will continue to work on our blindfold skills and look at another game of the Masters.